Let's do it. And don't be shy. I will kick this off with actually the second question because Marie got her question answered here too. So I'm curious what you think if the starting point of a website is just so archaic, they're the last website still hosted on GeoCities or something of that nature. Like, do you suggest doing a traditional or doing a major design development overhaul and then getting into growth driven design, or should you basically always start with whatever your starting point is?
Yeah, I think it comes back to, again, focus and priorities. And so for priorities, again, you need to start with, why do we have a website? What is the purpose? What are the KPIs, the key performance indicators that we're trying to influence in the business? It's not just to look pretty, it's the business, tying it back to the business's goals and how the website is a lever to pull to accelerate those business goals. So going back to that and using that as a filter to prioritize your decision on which path to go down. Additionally, it's about time. And so again, you have limited time. And so each one of those paths that you go down, whether it's path one is like, let's totally redesign and we're going to use a template, or it could be, we're going to totally redesign and we're going to build 100% from scratch, or we're going to take our existing website. Maybe you just relaunched a few months ago and you like the look and feel and it's performing well, and you actually don't need to do a full redesign. You're just going to jump into continuous improvement. Like, those are some of the common paths. And so when you decide which path you want to go down, again, you need to think of it in terms of priority of the business, which one of those paths is going to make the biggest impact on those KPIs, and then where is the best use of our time. And so for me personally, when I think back to my days at an agency, when I worked at an agency, we prided ourselves of doing every single page 100% from scratch, 100% custom. That was like how we positioned ourselves. And looking back at it, if the goal is to drive business growth, I'm not convinced that doing everything from scratch is the best use of your time. I mean, there are, again, places that you can be smart about. Where should we do it from scratch and where should we use pre-built templates? So let me give you an example. What we see a lot of people do with growth-driven design is they audit their existing site, they audit their wish list, and they bucket the pages. They say, these are the high impact pages that directly contribute to business growth, and that we know if we invest time and energy into those pages, it will have a disproportionate impact on our results. These are the medium impact pages, like they're less visited, they're less directly tied to the results, people use them. And these are the low impact pages. These are like the legacy pages from old products. Or these are, we know they're not really visited, but we get some organic traffic, we want to keep them around. And then you say, what's the process we're going to use for the high impact? What's the process for medium and low? High impact, you're like 3 to 5 pages. Maybe those are worth the investment for custom from scratch. And maybe you just start with the top 3 pages, launch the Launchpad site, and then move to the next 2 and rebuild the next 2 once it's live. The medium impact pages, maybe you just use pre-built templates. And you're like, man, like, we can cut our time in half if we use a pre-built template and just tweak it. And therefore, we're not investing as much time there. We're being smart and investing our time up top. And the low impact pages, it's like, let's just migrate the content we have over into a pre-built template and not even touch the content. And again, this is just a starting point. We know that this is not going to be the end. We know that we're going to continuously improve. So all we're talking about is, how do we get started? You can always go back and do the custom work. You can always go back and do content updates, do image updates, add, change those templates later. But we're talking about just what's the time and effort to build a site that looks and performs better than what you have today, and do it in an efficient manner. That's really what we want to do. So it doesn't give you an exact answer, but hopefully that gives you some ways to structure your thought process on picking a right path for you.
I think that's really useful to people, for sure. Thanks.
All right. What other questions do you have? I got the question pane open. Also the chat pane, you can throw them in either. Says, wondering if the future, if there will be complete switch from HubSpot's design tools, design manager to in-page drag and drop only. Okay, cool. I see there are templates in the marketplace that are drag and drop and themes. All right, so give you a little history lesson. We've actually had a CMS for the last 14 years, since the inception of HubSpot. But it's always lived as an add-on to the Marketing Hub, to our marketing tools. So you kind of buy the marketing tools, and then if you needed some content tools, you kind of add that on. And we saw such great usage, such great demand, and we saw all these shifts in the industry. We decided to pull that add-on feature out and totally reinvent it, redesign it, build the 2 tiers, and launch the Hub this last April. And so one of those things that we saw was the editing experience. In the olden days of HubSpot CMS, we used to have a tool called the Design Manager, and we still have it today. It's not going anywhere, to answer your question. It's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. But that tool was, we had marketers and developers building on the site, and we thought, why don't we build a centralized place where marketers and developers can kind of all work on building structure and templates and things like that. And we had a few other kind of legacy features called flexible columns, which allowed you to build some flexibility into the site. But it was more like blocks. Like, you'd have this whole block and you could move a block around versus individual elements. And so those two things, flexible columns, Design Manager, they still exist today. They're not going anywhere. So anyone who's been building on HubSpot CMS in the past, you can keep doing exactly what you're doing and it's still going to work exactly how it has. What we've done is we've layered on new options for even better experience for that marketer and developer. What we found was that Design Manager really didn't do a great job for either one of those personas. The marketers found it a little too technical, a little too much code required to do what they needed to do. And developers were like, I want to code locally in my local editors and just work in all code. And so we've extended the editing experience to create those two new ones. The first one is that what we showed, which is the drag and drop editing and the themes. The second one is the local development CLI, which allows them to just plug into their local tools and work in all code. And so those are just two new options for that. I will say that overall, we are moving in the direction of these the more modern frameworks that we've talked about. We're leaning really hard into full drag and drop versus just flexible columns. Flexible columns are nice, but we found that marketers want to have more granularity on what they can manipulate and edit and add things horizontally, not just vertically. And so we're going to see more and more around drag and drop. And we also are going to see more and more about themes. And so again, themes allow you to change the look and feel across the site without touching CSS, but it's also, a theme is a package of assets, package of templates, package of modules, package of styling and coded files. And that package is what we're going to start leaning into very, very heavily across the board. So it's not that templates are going away. It's just that templates are one piece of a theme. We kind of have this new theme package that includes a bunch of things, including the templates. So I guess the long story short is nothing's going away. We're just adding in new experiences based off of what we've seen. And we'll probably see more and more of those experiences and less talk about and promote maybe the previous way of building.